Okay, yeah. So welcome to BenKyo Go class number 7, Joseki punishments. So let's get started. So you can use the chat as usual to, yeah, give your answers and discuss. Um, so you guys can see when I change the board, right? Like situation 2, situation 3, situation 4, like this. Should be fine, right? Okay. So for the first situation, suppose that your opponent, white, has played away. Where would you like to play? Okay, we've got R12. Uh-huh. Anything else? D17. Ah, yeah. And of course, so these situations are going to assume that the rest of the board has more stones. Yeah, but playing in an empty corner is certainly a good idea. Yeah. But for the rest of the situations, let's assume that there are no empty corners. Just local. Yeah. So locally, R11, okay. So locally R12 looks good. Um, The good thing about R12 is that if they Tanuki again, then you're going to have a very clear covering move like this. You could also even play like this, but the point is that you're going to be able to seal white in very nicely with one move. And even threaten white's life and death. So in order to survive, white's going to have to make a lot of happy exchanges for black. Like pushing, attaching, maybe pushing in the corner. And then white can live at this point, but very good for black. Same thing with this attachment. Like if white plays here, then actually here white's going to be struggling for life and death. So they would pretty much have to extend along this way. So it's going to be good for black. You could even exchange this to double hane. Or even if you just extend it, it's going to be pretty good because white has to keep pushing and maybe push again or push in the corner. So pretty painful, even if it's just like that. So the one space pincer is going to be pretty severe. And even if white jumps out, you can just make territory, or depending on the situation, maybe you jump again. It's going to be pretty good for black. So for example, if black already had something around here, then you can jump again. And then you can just follow casually with maybe a move like this. Just play on the fourth line over here to build the top and put pressure on this group. And so you should pretty much never, almost never leave this Joseki unfinished as white, because up to this moment, the corner does not belong to black. White could invade, white could play this Joseki. And so this exchange here gives the corner to black. And so that slide at S16, it's kind of sharing the corner, but it doesn't yet have really much of anything for itself yet until it extends. So until it plays one more move, it's a one-sided trade. Only black has really gotten something. So white has to extend, thereby making this move here in the corner into a move that expands an existing territory. So without that move, it's like expanding a non-existing territory, you know? So good for black. So white should always add the third move. Hey, Bugcat. Yeah, you didn't really miss anything. Okay, so we're gonna go to situation 2 then. What if your opponent's third move for their Joseki is to push in like this? I'm sure many of you have experienced this kind of thing where instead of playing here, they pushed in. So what are your ideas for that? Yeah, and again, let's assume that all the other corners are taken. So do you guys still want a Tanuki? What a great master. That's a reference to what did you call those, canned responses? Anyway, on TieGem you can choose that message. What a great master. So yeah, S18 would be not quite right because it's, it's as though this happened and then, white played this move maybe too soon and you just respond. That means white already gained maybe 10 points or so from pushing there. And believe it or not, yeah, it's a pretty big move, just even getting the push. So Tanuki is, even if we assume that the other corners are played out and like it's early in the opening, but there's no empty corners, still Tanuki here is a good idea because white is playing on the second line. So, one of the best ways to make their move look bad is to just ignore it. That's how it goes with second line moves usually. Um, but also the pincer is a valid option too. So everything is correct. Yeah. Like if we get white to play here, then that's already a success for black since this is some small stuff. Yeah, and then black can cover or just do whatever they want to do. We have to watch out for the safety of this group, but for now there's a lot of space, so it doesn't really matter. All the more reason though to perhaps cover here. Or yeah, play something locally. S17. Oh, I've talked about that many times. Oh yeah. Bugcat is referring to, yeah, I thought about including that in this lecture actually, but it would be too time consuming. But basically, if you have a situation like this, then actually this move can be quite powerful. Black could move out like this, but of course you're getting points in exchange for a jump, which is always a happy thing. And if black decides to block, there's actually this move. And so if black connects, you'd be able to connect back with something like this, or even attaching here directly. So you can take away all of black's space. Black has this counter. I'm going to go fast for this, and you guys can look this up on your own because we need to move on soon. But there's a Tsuji here and another Tsuji here that wins the capturing race locally. However, there is the matter of white pushing out like this. And after black keeps saving these, it's going to be based on a ladder. So like if white has this ladder, then black overplayed. And if black has this ladder, then obviously white overplayed. So you actually don't see this come up a lot in real games for high level games. And it's because basically this can only happen if one or the other made a huge mistake, right? So the game is pretty much ending at this point, depending on who has this ladder. But that's really good to know. So like this peeping and attach. If black has the ladder, black can attach. If black doesn't have the ladder, black's already very, very bad here and shouldn't even block this. So when you block this, if white has this stone around here, then you actually have to check the ladder before you block this because white has this move. Okay, but let's move on to this situation. Okay, so how to punish this move? Because this is not Joseki. Okay, Tanuki. S17 probably makes white overconcentrated if defended. Anything else? R10. Okay, so the correct answer is, yeah, you can just leave it alone. Although white is very solid, it's white kind of punished themselves already by taking very little here. So you can just do nothing. In fact, white playing that solidly makes white actually even more impervious compared to this move, which at least black has some things they can do. Like there can be walling off here in the middle game. There can even be some fancy stuff in here that gets a little bit complicated. There can also be attaching here, which, like, if they Hane here, then you can crosscut and it's working. White has a bump actually to connect, which is interesting, but if they play on top, then, you know, something like this could happen. So yeah, or Hane here first. So this move is very difficult to do anything against, but it just doesn't take very much points, right? It's kind of like if you have a corner and you're just playing very, very conservative, like maybe like this, then, you know, white doesn't have to do anything to you. Or if you have a 3-4 points and you close it like this, you know, you could play that. You know, it's not going to lose you the game just to play that, but it's very slow. Solid, but slow. Okay. Um, the next, so that's kind of a trick question, right? Like you just ignore it and it's fine. How about this one? This one surely comes up in some of your games, at least in the past. I even see this come up in some game reviews I do for you guys sometimes. Okay, we have R12. Okay. Any other ideas? U12. Split, otherwise Q12 too good. Okay, that's, yeah, so we'll address all these things. First of all, for the attach, when you do a move like this, you do want to just make sure, though, that you're, well, sure, because it could be helping white, so be careful of that. So white probably, Hane's here. What would be the next move for this? Ideas? Yeah, of course, yeah, read with the rest of the board. Right, counter Hane is probably one of the only things that could work here. Or could do something useful here. White can Atari here, and black pretty much has to go down, I would say, to get enough out of this. And then I suppose white would follow here. So this one probably requires some nearby black stones to do much. Yeah, Q12. So the split at R12, yeah, this is what I would recommend. So white has no way to capture this. Like if they attach here, you can choose, you should Hane whichever side you don't want to damage. Like if you want to damage white's top, then you Hane the bottom. So you're going to break out on this side. And then when they save their stone, you're going to connect, and that's going to damage white's upper right corner. And this is already a very terrible situation for white because, like, if they push out, then you're going to have this move, for example, and you could Hane here, and there's a chance white even dies with the whole corner now. This is Sente, Sente, Sente. After this, white has to make two eyes, but not really possible. Yeah, even this extend is starting to threaten a ladder on this group. So terrible situation for white. And if you Hane this side, it means that you want to damage the other side. But in this case, I think hurting the corner is better. So I would advise this Hane. And white could connect under like this, right? But this is just simply good for black. Even though white can play here. Still, black can just Tanuki now, and it's good for black. Just treat this as random influence that you just gained almost for free. And white should add this move, because even though, like, when black plays here, white can Atari, but this ko is very heavy for white. And very light for black. Like, black loses almost nothing and gets two free moves elsewhere during this ko fight. During this result, whereas, you know, if black wins this ko, white is obliterated here. So yeah, you have to actually add this extra move. Yeah, so even though your Ponuki is kind of like a fake Ponuki, it's not really that strong. It just adds a lot of influence that's making a big wall up like this. So it's just enough value already. Yeah, and you can apply that in general. It's usually bad for white to do this kind of connecting under to give up Ponuki. So yeah. Now there is one more way to handle this white area. I should also cover this attaching under. White can try to attach under, but black is going to be able to just play one of these Hane and just live on the edge. And that's going to be good enough because, and you can just capture here, or you can Atari, you can push here. Doesn't really matter, but let's say you just capture now. White has a lot of cutting points, and they pretty much have to fix one right away. So maybe this one. And then you're alive in Sente. You can either like take another push at this moment or at this moment if you're afraid that later on this one might be Sente. But it's up to you because also you have this Sente pretty much whenever you need it. So it means white can't really capture with this move. But it is something to think about. Like if ever a move like this would force you to play something like that, you know, let's just say, then you should not let that happen. So that would be the case to get an extra push. That way the turn becomes completely gote, just in general. But yeah, so you can just take the points because although white gets an outside wall, it has a lot of weaknesses and also gote, like white has to fix and black has Sente. In the future, it's still possible that white becomes like it. Let's say you have something around here or here, then you can still attack white in the future. So it's not like white is that strong. So it's not really that strong of a wall. Okay. Now another way to handle this is also to Tanuki. So there was a comment that it's too nice if white gets a move here. But that actually depends. Like if you think about it, if white spends 4 moves here during the opening, you know, you might ask yourself, well, wouldn't it be better for white to like take this stone and put it here and then spend the next move, you know, somewhere else, like maybe doing something like this? So, sometimes depending on the board, for example, there's going to be some positions. Let me just go back to that situation. There's going to be some situations where going in here isn't necessarily the best idea right away, or maybe there's just something bigger. And one other way to think is assuming there's really, really big moves elsewhere that you just really want to rush to. Are you afraid of white, you know, playing here or playing here? And sometimes it is good just to punish, like even though maybe the game is fine if you let white spend another move because maybe it's inefficient, but sometimes it is still just stronger to punish them right away anyway, right? But supposing you did want something big elsewhere, it's really not necessarily that efficient for white to have to come back and play another move so soon. Now, this is assuming that this side was just kind of no one's, right? Like, let's say we have an opening that is like just like this. And we have whatever happening on the right, and then we have something like this, right? So on a side, which it's not like white was splitting black side or anything like that, then I wouldn't say that it's efficient for white to spend 4 moves here. On the other hand, okay, if we had a situation such as, let's say like this, right, where the right side is black's side, and then white splits, that's different because black is supposed to have an extra advantage on this side. And so when this kind of classic variation happens, it is actually too soft on white to let white play like this. So that's a different situation, and that is true. So white is actually better here. And perhaps white can jump, but this is the classic move. So in this situation, black is actually supposed to invade, which is also related to R8. So R8 makes the invasion more powerful. And R8 also turns this move, it makes it too slack to let white get all this because now white actually is not only rather solid, like it's actually a pretty thick position with all the stones that close together, but even the amount of territory is pretty decent, right? It's like 3, 5, something like 10 points. So it also makes the power of black R8. It just doesn't really have any good follow-ups aside from just jumping now. So yeah. So in that situation, you are supposed to invade, but here you don't necessarily have to. So there's a difference, right, of the nearby stones. Okay, next situation. And by the way, regarding what we talked about here, where like there's an extra stone and this one, I just went quickly because we don't want to spend too much time on this, but you can let me know, on Discord if you want to know a little more about this or you want me to whip up a file real quick. But let's see here. I did want to show one more thing that I skipped by here. Might as well, which is just the reason why black's playing here, which allows black to win the Liberty fight, because even though it's 2 against 2, white's not able to approach. And also, another cool thing is just like if white actually, maybe white doesn't have the ladder, so they can't, play this way. But what if white plays this move, right? To just capture 1 stone and try to gobble up this whole corner. Problem there is that actually black has this Tesuji, which is making use of S19. So it's like the typical squeeze that you find in many online Go problems. So yeah, just wanted to add that in there, but we're gonna go back to the other situations. Yeah, if you I'm gonna whip up a file of real quick after the lecture, I guess, and send it to you guys. Might as well. I don't think it would take me too long, but just remind me if I forget. So the next situation is going to be this one. So your opponent kicks you, you approach, your opponent kicks you, and then they pincer instead of adding a stone. So how do you punish this one? Oh, you have the timestamp. Okay. Please do share that. That could save me some time. So please, if you have it convenient, then send the link and the timestamp. Foxeki. Fox Joseki. Okay, we've got P16. Got O17. Yeah, but Sensei's library is not always it's nice to have an SGF, I think, or a OGS link to play it out. Yeah. I don't really use Sensei's library much myself because it's a lot of reading, but it is a really awesome resource. Or I guess I just like to have the interactive board, but so yeah, you have this attached. We actually have an SGF file in the study group pinned messages. So if you have trouble finding it, you can just ask me. But we already have pretty much all the variations you need to know and then some added into that SGF. So I'm not going to go through this too much, but the most simple idea, the classic way, is to attach and extend. And if they extend again, I mean, if they just connect, then there's a lot you can do here. Like you can just block, or you can just force here and just block here, and you get a lot of development for the top and some thickness. If you could block here, but then you risk getting cut here, so that's not necessarily a fight that you want to get into. It would be nice if we could Hane before we play here to make it Atari, but of course black also might counter with this move. But if they push here, you're going to cut and sacrifice 2 stones to give you these 3 forcing moves, which actually shrunk black's points by about 3 points, which is interesting, like compared to just doing that, which is a bad exchange, by the way. You lose this one too, so bad exchange. The corner for black is about 16 points, and also we don't even have this move anymore because they can cut. So when you sacrifice like this, not only do you gain all these extra forcing moves, like these two on the top, you actually make Black's corner, including captures, a total of 13 points instead of 16, which is great. Oh, Bugcat, please share also in the study group if you don't mind. Yeah, in the channel. So yeah, white can just fix after this, and the cut here is not working. And so it's pretty good for white most of the time. There are a few other ways to punish this, which is like this is the most AI friendly punishment. And it looks complicated, but it's not that complicated. Like if white tries to Atari here, then there's two problems now. I mean, you have A and B coming up, right? Or even C. So it's bad for black already. And if they Atari out, which you might expect, it seems crazy or complicated, but actually you can just take this and let black have this and just take this. And still the stones over here are not dead yet. So that's actually making it easy to play. And if they insist on keeping the corner, then you can fight like this. If they take the two stones, you're happy to sacrifice and damage this other stone. And finally, there's the double approach. Double approach is one of your suggestions, and yeah, that's one way. Yeah, so black, yeah, plays this one to stop us from basically getting this move, which will come after this cut. And so black tries to break our shape with this one. And yeah, this makes sense because like if black tries to push right away, they have their own problem here, which is quite devastating, especially with black being an empty triangle. So to prepare for that, black can just connect, and then white can fix their cut and black can jump out. Yeah. And this is actually, I'm glad you shared that. This is actually a prime example where, although it's classically, it's supposed to be good for white, especially because white can maybe just attack that stone now. But in many cases, it's actually going to be okay for black, especially if black already had some sort of support around here, or at least it's going to be close to even. And so that's where you may be interested in learning this Hane here, because this is a more powerful way. So this will be the next one to learn, maybe after the extend. So with the double approach, black is probably going to go out with the attach, and then you can just Hane and peep as per normal Joseki, like, you know, this kind of shape sequence. This peeping is also indirectly fixing this cut, so that's, you know, this move is mandatory. And black has to fix, and then at this point, white can just push in further. And yeah, even if black like covers, again, this white group has a lot of life left. There's going to be moves like this that make it so even if white's dead on the right side, it's really good for white. This was black's corner originally. White also has Sente and a good amount of points. And like between this move and like this one, this group is totally not dead. So yeah, it's good for white. And if they go out like this, you can just 3-3. And Hane, connect. And if they don't play here, like if they connect, then you can connect under. Super good for white. So yeah, that's enough about that. But those are some ways to punish this situation number 5. Okay. Next we have situation number 6. Looks like we're halfway through our time already, so I'll try to cherry pick some of these situations. Let's skip this one actually. It's a bit basic. Let's go to situation 7. So how to punish here as white. Yep, controversial. There is an actual answer, but in my mind, it's not controversial because it really depends on the player's level. Because there's only so much you should expect of people's knowledge and their reading ability. And so there's a lot of reasons why I would still promote this one over this one, over the Hane. And let's get into that for just a brief moment here. So this is the classic recommended punishment. And like when black goes down, as soon as white cuts here, black is doomed. They actually have to give up one of their groups. Like if they extend, this move is working because of this wedge. And no matter how black Ataris, they can't do anything. Doesn't matter about this, you just go out. So if you follow the guideline here of, okay, after this cut, black is dead somewhere, then that can help you guide your moves and know what you need to play. For example, you can't play this one because it allows black to have this working connection under, or more like connection over in this case. So it tells you that, okay, you have to do this one and get the squeeze and capture some stones. So it helps you feel confident, you know, if you can't read it well, that they don't have anything with these moves. Yeah. And if black saves the other side somehow, then you can just take this and it's good enough. Or in this case, you could even push again if you wanted to. And even, can you push again? Yeah, you can even push yet again. This is going to be a snapback here. But, you know, even if all you did was this one and give black this one, it's going to be good for white. So no matter what they do, like even if they Atari first and then go here, this cut is going to break the ladder for them. So it's not ladder anymore. And then they still die on this side. Okay. So they can actually fix up their situation by playing like this and attaching here. And actually the reason why you could say almost that this is controversial is that sometimes AI is actually giving black a slightly favorable score here. Not enough for you to care, but it's interesting, right? That black overplays and then still manages to be okay. But it is depending on the situation. And the thing is, first of all, the actual best punishment, which is to Hane, connect, and cut, it's going to be very complicated and very also dependent on the nearby stone positions. And basically it's not, you know, what you would call foolproof. Like it's complicated. It requires your reading to be on point. Yeah, if I remember correctly, there's some ladder stuff too. But the thing is too, right? The thing is that even if the opponent plays perfectly from this point, like they play here, then it's still okay for white. It's just that it's not bad for black, right? That's the thing. And the thing is that the people who are going to play this overplay are usually the same people who are going to mistakenly block here, right? So that's the thing. So it's actually going to go a long way to just choose this one, because not only is this a move that even 15Q can easily, you know, play, and just as long as they know that they need to capture a cut and capture something, then they can do it correctly, and it's not too complicated. And yeah, so the types of players who Hane here, they're gonna block here and they're gonna get destroyed. So it's great to just play this one. What if black doesn't block? Right, yeah, so black plays here. So that's the AI variation, right? That's the one that makes this controversial, because actually black can get an okay score from this. Sometimes even marginally better for white. Yeah. But you don't need to worry about that, because even if your opponent knows this and does that, it's still, you know, relatively even here. So I wouldn't really spend time trying to figure this thing out, because most of the time this one will actually be more punishing, because because people will block here. So you'll win games better that way. And you're better off putting your time and effort studying other things instead of studying this, I would say. Isn't the clamp at 017? That's what I thought, but apparently it's not really. Like, if they just connect, then yes, this becomes good for white, because it's as though we played the normal Joseki, and then black plays this bad push, which loses a liberty and loses some possibilities up here. So that is right, but the thing about that is, if they go down, it gets quite complicated. And if they go down and you don't play perfectly, it's going to be very bad for white. So it's going to be very bad for someone. We just don't know yet, right? But From what I remember, the cut is the AI recommendation here usually. So, yeah. So I recommend you guys to just descend down. Okay. Next is going to be situation 8. So, uh, so white plays Hane here, not knowing how to punish, and black mistakenly double Hanes here. So, what are your best ideas to punish this situation? Yeah, I think I've seen this before in someone's game, so that's why I presented this. This one will be slightly different. I mean, we can explore that. I don't know what's gonna happen just by looking at this. I mean, I know that if black descends, then black is just dead here, yeah. But what if they Tari, Tari, Hane, Hane? It's kind of complicated, I think. For example, even this move is threatening ladder. And like this is just super complicated. I mean, it's again threatening ladder. Somebody's gonna explode here. This is actually ridiculously complicated. Like if white just saves these or takes this, then ladder. There's just so many things happening here. So not quite the same, but it's a very interesting situation. Okay, other ideas? What would you guys do in your real game as white? Okay, we've got S16. So I'll put some options out. We've got so we got this one, connect. We've got all these moves. So what are we thinking? Okay, so we've got this idea. So what do you guys think about this result for each side? We know this one is Joseki locally. Like if we just have a 4/4, double Hane is a perfectly good pro grade Joseki. And locally it's even for both. So how about these two stones then? Who has the better exchange here? White or black? Yep. This is bad for black because this exchange here is very bad for black, for white. Sorry, this is bad for white. Is that what I said? This is bad for white because the exchange is very good for black. Like if you took off these two stones, it's perfectly even. But then you have white. Then you have white playing super close to thickness like this, with absolutely no threat on black whatsoever. Like even these stones are not getting revived or anything, so it's not doing anything. And then black pincers, which like could black pincer a little farther, maybe, but this is a super good exchange for black. If white runs out, then white's getting nothing, black's getting something. If white loses that stone, then then it's like black played here, white played here, and then for some reason later this happens. So that's not making sense either. So although I guess black probably wouldn't play here even. Black would probably expand outwardly instead. Or even just push like this. But yeah, it's a very bad exchange. So we can't just take the double Hane. I mean, we can't just take the stone. It's too good for black. So yeah, this move is a really good idea because, for example, if they try to punish the top, then we can just counter Atari and take the 2 stones, which is going to be a trade, but white's clearly getting more here than black. And also, again, you have to look at the nearby, the extra stones, right? This stone is now not doing anything. Usually a pincer is to put pressure, and but white is like super alive after that. So very bad for black. If black tries to block here, then the problem is there's going to be cut and Atari and capture. And you can't really just give up this either. This is too much destruction on the top. So it's just really good for white no matter what, basically. So this Hane is definitely the key, yeah. Now you could Atari first and then Hane, and then you get something like this happening. This is still going to be a better result for white. Even though I think the other way is a bit better, the timing. But this way, white is fully connecting out and getting all the corner, and still this stone is in a weird spot at the end. And we can even play some... actually, we don't really get a ladder breaker because we need to still connect. Like if you play a ladder breaker, let's say, you know, attaching or something, and then black takes it and you follow up. The problem actually with that is like after maybe black responds once or twice, black's gonna have this move, which is actually turning our entire corner, or it's making the whole corner like really small in Sente. So we do actually have to play another move as white. So white would probably just add a move here, and then black can take off the ladder, maybe like this or something like that. Yeah, L+2, yeah. But this is still very good for white because white finishes in Sente, taking black's corner and making that stone kind of weird. If you took away that black stone, then it would be much harder to assess this, right? This would be maybe not so bad for black, but definitely when you add that stone, it's just in a weird place. So it could have been somewhere more useful on the board. Okay, so let's move on now to maybe some 3-4 stuff while we still have time. So let's see. Let's say white ignores you here. How do you want to punish white? We're talking about 3-4 now. Okay, pincer where? R12, okay. Okay, so we got R12. Anything else? She's so cute. You know, a lot of people think that Shusaku invented that move, but that's not true. He simply used it a lot and loved it, but and he won a lot with it, so you know, it was kind of tied to his name, but he definitely did not invent that move. Kick and pincer. Okay. R11 should also be fine. Yeah, that's right. Even R13 sometimes. R13 looks really close and concentrated, but sometimes AI is recommending that one too. Q15. Q15. Q14. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at some of these. And then there's the kick, yeah. R16. So, yeah, let's take a look at some of these. So, first of all, the kick. One problem with this kick is that because black has already invested like 3 stones here, white is actually quite light, and so white probably just Tanukis again. Or, you know, play some kind of like super light extension somewhere. Because black is starting to be a bit slow. Like if this happened first, then white would go here because white knows black has to add a move. But then, you know, if it's black's turn now, black's gonna just pincer this whole thing and white's not really getting anything. So like, if we kick, white definitely won't go here because white's gonna get attacked somehow. So white's gonna Tanuki. So the kick is it's gonna be possible as a, you know, it's gonna be a good move in some cases, but it's gonna be one of the less popular choices here because it gives white even more reason to just play lightly and Tanuki again. So, you know, when you keep playing stones in the same place, you are at risk of being very slow. And this one looks a bit unusual. I don't think this one is a Joseki because like white goes in, black has to block the 3/3. And then when white Hane's here, it's hard for black to get a very good position. Like in order to make this stone here make any sense, black has to push, but pushing is going to be nice for white. So in most situations, it's going to be... I think this move does exist in, like, if there's maybe already a stone here. There are some cases where in some situations, instead of suggesting this one, I have seen AI actually suggest like this, but I wouldn't recommend that. It's not a very commonly good move, and it allows white to push in here and then just Tanuki. You can make a wall that way, but you can also just make a wall like this anyway and preserve more weakness on white. So, you know, if you talking about the, yeah, if you research it a lot, then, you know, you could do it, but it's not something I've ever played, and it's not something I see suggested very often, except for like specific late middle game kind of situations, or I don't have too much info about this, but I know that it looks a little concentrated for black, and like white doesn't have any weaknesses in their shape, whereas if you play it like this, white still has a weakness, and it's not like white's gonna go here because that's too slow. Black would be happy already, so you can actually white's gonna have Sente in both cases, but this way white's left with a problem, whereas this way white's left with no problem at all. So yeah. So pressing is definitely possible. This will be, especially if you want to build up the top, and definitely the most popular punishment for white leaving this completely alone is to pincer. Yeah, so something like this or this, these would be the most common. And if white ignores again, then you do want to be careful of being too slow with black, but you can play here. And white is relatively dead there now. There are ways for white to still make use, like live inside. Usually they wouldn't live inside because you have to be extremely, like, you have to know a really, really perfect and amazing sequence to make life here. But they do have Agi to use this, and there's going to be ways to, like, especially assuming white has some preparation on the outside, then there's going to be a lot of Agi using, like, this cut and maybe this exchange. There's going to be a lot of stuff happening, yeah, on the side around here, or, like, exchanging this one and attaching here, cut, and then there's going to be a lot of different issues for white on the outside, or for black on the outside, since there's a liberty shortage here as well as something possible over here. So the Agi is very high, but as it stands, this, you can consider this stone as basically dead now. Supposedly there is a sequence. I don't remember the sequence, but there is a sequence here to make white live locally. But you have to play perfect, and I think even that might require some white stone on the outside somewhere. I'm not sure. But for all intents and purposes, you can just assume this is dead. And just be careful when white starts playing like close by. So yeah, I recommend this pincer. Or if it's really far like this, then you could still cover, or you could play something like that. This time the kick can be okay because it is making really good use of the R11 pincer. Whereas if you play this, this could be good too, but it does give white enough space this time to live. Because like this situation would just barely make it like really hard for white to live. But this one is, that one space is a big difference for white's safety, or white's eye space. Like if something like this happens, white's gonna be able to live here. Okay. Next situation is going to be... yeah, let's look at this one. Okay, so this situation. Black plays away. What can white do here? So it started like this, and then later black kicks and tenukis. Or it could have been, you know, kick and here, and then normally white would extend farther, but okay. That's why the situation is actually like this. Yeah. So what can white do next? These are all situations that should come up in any of your games, regardless of your level. Okay, we have P17 as one idea. What else? Yeah, of course you can Tanuki, that's right. Don't play anything here unless you really have a good plan. Yeah. Tanuki is often going to be a good idea. So, yeah, this move does exist. If black cuts, then we cut, push. You guys can memorize this, by the way, what I'm about to show you. So, attach, cut, cut, push, hane, which is threatening A, or obviously B. So, black, of course, has to respond, and black cannot double hane because of this capture. So, black extends. Now, if you keep pushing here, though, black can actually force here, which is pretty painful. Like, if you respond, then you're in a very bad situation with white. Black's corner is not alive yet, but neither is white, right? So white usually plays hane once to avoid that forcing move. Then pushes here again, and push again, and then connect. And then black has to make alive. And this corner is interesting because locally, like, this is a dead shape, and this is a ko shape. But it's a little different because first of all, like, not only does white still have their own weakness, but still also black has some forcing moves on this side against white's life and death. So the corner life and death for black is a little bit complicated. But basically, this is what white can expect. So like up to here is what you can basically memorize. And when you're playing a real game, you just have to imagine that shape forming. And based on the nearby situation, you have to ask yourself if you like this as white. Like, for example, maybe this black group would be really weak because of some nearby white stones, um, or maybe, yeah, so you can just judge based on the overall situation. And if you want to play something locally, but you don't think this is good for you, then you can just approach from here. So as black, though, you do need to watch out for this at all times, because if you're not ready, then this can really destroy you. So you can play here, and black should defend with either like a kick or a kick, which makes white stronger, but tries to get sente. Or you can play this one, which is better. It's kind of like better locally, but then it gets gote, so it's a difference. They're both valid and common good choices. Or you could even jump here if the miai of, like, let's say A or B, C is good enough. But unless this jump has a lot of power and threat, usually you don't want to play this kind of jump too early in the game because it doesn't have any points. So you can kick into Nuki, even though white can cover. Or you just play here. So, yeah. Now, how should we play if black ignores this then? Question about P17. Is it a disaster if white can connect after? Is it a disaster if white can connect after? What do you mean by that? Where, white connect where? Connect to its right side. Oh, but how? How do you connect the top to the right? Oh, if black doesn't cut. You mean maybe like this? If it's like this, then yeah, white also needs to have this one prepared. So, for example, if white goes down, black has to cut, connect. This pushes Sente usually, and then white's gonna need this cut to be working. And so you can see that actually, without some preparation, like a nearby stone, white can't really do this. So white has to pull back. After white pulls back, there's going to be this cut. Black has to fix the corner part because this trading would be too good for white. And after this, if white has support on the top side, white can go here and it might be very bad for black. Otherwise, white just plays Hane. And depending on the situation, it can be very good for white to build a lot of outside with this, or it could be fine for black. Yeah. R17 after black connects under. R17, interesting. That one's not really gonna work because there is this Atari. But that kind of move is it can be a very sharp move sometimes. It's a very interesting one in some cases, yeah. Assuming that that white had a stone here already. It is a very interesting one. Like you guys can try thinking about this situation. This does come up, like this kind of attaching to a diagonal formation. It does come up actually in real games. And sometimes it's hard to find black's response. Like you have to read a lot of variations to figure it out. Like we can't connect because this happens. If we go here, then even if we pull down, they can Atari and then take. That's interesting. So even with this one, then there isn't really a good way for black here. So yeah, that's a really cool move, but in this case, it's not quite working. Okay, so we were looking at this one. Yeah, so if this move is connecting to something for white, then this is gonna be very bad for black. Because even black's corner in the upper right is subject to more forcing moves as well. And black is cut off. But if there's nothing around, black's gonna just probably press here. White can't cut because black can play one exchange like this to stop the ladder and then go here. So doesn't work. And so white would, in this case, play like that. And then black continues somehow. Like if black plays here, then there's still some Aji like Tetsuji here or this one in the future, but also maybe white just wants to make the wall bigger. And then, yeah, this actually can be very good for white sometimes because you're going to build a lot of outside. So it really depends on, like, is black getting too much on the top or what? So, but I know that AI often liked to just Hane here in a lot of the cases that I've looked at before. So, so it's not always going to be good for white to go here. You have to imagine the results before you play here. And so now the question is, okay, how does white punish when white plays here and black tenukis? So how do we play this? O18 depending on the northwest. Assuming that says northwest. I'm looking at R18. O17. Ah, well, I'm glad I posed this question then. P16. J17. Ah, but it's white's turn right now. I'll run away. So let's see here. This move is enough. Like this already does make black very painful. But it's not the strongest punishment. So black is going to connect somehow, you know, maybe like this. It is bad for black, but it's not as bad as it could be. This one is pretty cool because it is looking at that connecting under with A or going this way. But it is also a bit far away. So like if black just goes here, and you play like this, it's how is it? Yeah, it's probably not that good for white because white has to connect with a very questionable connection, which later on can be exploited. Maybe it's good for black to do it right away, just to make black's own connection better. And then this kind of move is going to be black's sente. It's an interesting one, though. A lot of people wouldn't even think of this one, but that's technically a vital point. So the best punishment, just to save us some time here, best punishment is going to be here. And I'm actually surprised that most of you didn't suggest this one. So it's good that I am showing this, I guess. This is the main place to punish. You know, just crosscut. This one's similar, but this one's a bit more lenient. Like this one allows black to keep like a bigger corner, let's say. So with this one, if black tries to cut, you're gonna cut back. If black takes the stone in the ladder, then you're gonna just take the corner. It's gonna be extremely good for white. Oh, you want to give difference, okay. And if black connects the corner, then we can just cut this off. Even this is working, and it's very good for white. Even though black is not dead yet, it's good for white for sure. Black would usually compromise with this move. And then at this point, white can force here and then cut. And it's good for white, even if like whether you play here or even here, it's going to be good for white. So this attaching is the usual punishment. And normally black cannot allow this. So you should usually respond to this. Back in the day, the correct move was to play here because we didn't want to make white stronger. But AI tells us that we should try to get sente, or at least get a bit more. Okay, moving on. We're already over an hour in, so let's try to wrap this up. There's a few more that we didn't get to, but let's see. The best. Okay, there's two more that I want to show. Where is our attaching under? Let's see. Okay, here. How should white play here when black plays this unusual descend? Only 4 more hours. Kitani descend, yeah. Okay, we've got S14, O17, O16. Wow, we've got a lot of different ideas here. Okay, problem with this blocking is like, what is your plan against the cut? Yeah, or if black just even like maybe the cut isn't even so bad for white because white can descend. Black needs to fix their maybe go out and then start to fix their shape. And maybe white can fight this, right? Maybe this is not so bad for white. Maybe like that, this, whatever. It's maybe white can fight this somehow. Or jump. Like here. But yeah, so the problem maybe with this block is that black can just respond. And now there's going to be a cutting point. So let's say this happens, then black can just move out. Can black jump? This jump depends on what's going on with this cut. But okay, this is just a ladder. So that means there's nothing there. So yeah, black can jump. And so there's a more efficient move than this one, which I'll explain after. This one, you know, in some game situations, this one could be the right way. But in the general case, you're probably just going to get cut here. So it's probably not the best choice. This one's, I'm glad one of you guys suggested this one, or one or two of you, because This is like the shape move, right? Like if you imagine most shapes like here, then you would push in, right? And then expecting this block, or even in the center fighting. You know, white has some kind of weak group that's being attacked from all sides. Then white can attach to black, and then we get the Hane, and black breaks white's shape like this. So you usually have this kind of Nobi, right? But the problem here, actually, this is the classic mistake in this Joseki, because now when black fixes the shape, white can't even really Hane because there's going to be this cut. And if white connects, then black is just going out and kind of getting a lot compared to white. Like now, even if white extends, it's undercut. If you compare to this Joseki, you know, it's similar, especially if we exchange this one. But then now at least white can get their points, right? There's no like leaking in. So the correct move is this solid connection, which is looking for like the shape weakness here later, and maybe attaching here. Black usually fixes the shape for now, just so that later on there's no issue, and then white has some choices. You could even just play here now. The difference is that black doesn't have another extension here yet. Or white can jump this way, which is one of the classic variations. Yeah, and then, you know, maybe something like that. It kind of reminds you of this 3-3 Joseki, right? Like shoulder hit, push, extend, knight's move, jump, knight's move, jump. It kind of reminds you of that, doesn't it? So that's one way that this can be played. See you later, Phidias. Yeah, we're finishing up. So the correct move is actually to connect solid. And then this is basically Joseki. Moyoi, yeah. And so this black move is actually legitimate. You guys can go ahead and play it if you like it. So when we compare to this block, the difference is that, like, let's say we connect here, right? Now we have this move invested at A, which is just a bit slow. For example, if we were to play like this, and yeah, let's say something like this happened, then it would be a little bit slow to come back here too quickly to just block this, because the game is long. It's a bit too early to be blocking the endgame stuff, so that's what this block is going to turn into. So it's better to just connect. Okay, and maybe one more. Let's see. I think there was at least one more that I wanted to show. Actually, yeah, let's keep it simple with this one as the last one. So black ignores your high approach. Simple as that. What are the best punishments? That's going to be our final question. Well, avalanche, yeah, avalanche would be if black responded, then white can go here to make avalanche instead of going here, if they want to. But yeah, what if black ignores? So we have the pincer. We've got a lot of different suggestions here. Oh no, not a pincer, but yeah, it's white to play, so white to play. I see R13. Is this for white or is this like for black? For black, right? Yeah, yeah. That makes more sense. Okay, so this move is going to be too soft on black. Black can just block the 3-3. And white could have gone in further, like it would have been better to attach in. You don't have to be afraid of this cut, because white just cuts and black has to sacrifice one of the stones. In general, or at least get a bad result somehow. So you don't worry about that. The problem with this one is you give black a bigger corner, and now even if you try to extend, there's going to be a weakness connecting under with this. Just like, you know, with this kind of shape, the 3-3 can be played, because if white blocks the wider side, there's this connecting under. So you can see the similar situation with the Liberty shortage on the one white stone, which prevents white from blocking here because of this. So it's actually a bad shape there for white anyway, so we need to attach. So the two moves I would recommend the most, number one is this. This is the best local move for territory. Black can Tanuki, actually, but this one, and then usually here, and then like extend here or here, and then black can reinforce somehow, and white can take Sente. So, you know, this was originally black's corner, so even just getting in that far and making the corner so small, it's good enough for white already. And it finishes in Sente, because if black doesn't add a move, which is possible, but I mean, you can attack from here, and something like this, and black is uncomfortable, and not really getting any points. So I would usually advise black to add something. The other move I would suggest is this one. This is to build influence. If black attaches, we can just do that and either connect or here. And then black can Tanuki, but if they do, you can force once here, right? And then Tanuki, and it's just a nice little exchange for white. So black gets a small corner, white gets the outside. O16, yeah. O16 is pretty nice for developing center and potentially a Moyo around here. And let's see what else. There's a lot of variations actually, like this is possible even, which can be very scary for black. Black also has the choice to add a move here, which is valid as well, but it's Gote. But yeah. And if black also ignores again, then we can attach here. Attach here, or even you can play like this. Or you could even play like this sometimes, but attach would be simple. Yeah. If white attaches, there's an interesting Tetsuji move here for black. Like instead of just playing that exchange and then being kind of like locked in around here, black could go here, which is actually aiming at this one. It's pretty cool, right? And then if white takes this away, like here or here, then black can go to this side. And still aiming at weakness here. So if white reinforces, black can just kind of play away again. That's kind of cool, right? So you can remember this move. Yeah. Because if white just, you know, blocks somehow, then it's not like black has to go here. They can actually go on this side this time. Much more powerful. Normally, you're not really ignoring this move so much, but and this attach, by the way, is also another option. But let's say that you think, okay, if I go here, they're gonna do this, and if you know this variation, you might calculate that, like in the current situation, the fighting around here is gonna be too difficult for black. Let's say, then you can consider Tanuki, and then you know that means white might do this, and then you can be ready with this move. You could also keep Tanukiing. That's another strategy, is to try to make white slow by making white spend 4 or 5 moves here. That's also possible. Okay, so that's going to be it for now. There's a few more I wanted to go over, but as expected, we didn't have enough time. And that's fine. Maybe I'll keep those other ones in the file that I'm going to send you guys, with the clean file. So there's a lot to go back over if you guys review the video later. This is definitely a very variation-heavy lesson, but yeah, I thought a bit of technical stuff instead of just theory would be good. Stuff that you can use right away. Okay, so that's going to be the end of class number 7, Joseki punishments. So I'll post this ASAP to YouTube and share. I'll see you guys later. Have a good day.